Hello and welcome to my channel Inspiring Life Changes. My name's Colette and I'm here today to do a reading for the collective for this Lionsgate energy that's happening today on the 8th of the 8th. It happens every year at the same time. The sun today is at 16 degrees of Leo, which is why it's known as the Lionsgate. And it's when the Earth aligns with the star Sirius, one of the biggest stars close to us, and so we feel the energy from the star Sirius as it affects our earthly plane. So it's an opening that starts about the 26th of July and it goes through until the 12th of August, but the 8th of the 8th is the kind of exact point. It was also said to be in Egyptian times when the pyramids would align with the star constellation of Orion as well. Whether or not that is true, I'm not going to say for definite. I have my own kind of take on that as well, but I'm not going to get into that right now. So thank you very much to anybody who has come back to my channel, and also for those of you who have come here to check it out today and see what it's all about. I am a intuitive tarot reader of over 30 years experience, and today I thought I would do a reading for this collective energy to see what is happening. And I'm using a deck of cards that I haven't used properly, or I haven't used them on my channel before, and I've not really used them that much myself either. They're an amazing deck of cards. They were actually done by a friend of mine, and I was very lucky to be given a set of them, and they are quite phenomenal to say the least. They're really otherworldly type of cards, and the lady or the woman who painted them, who created them, is one of the most down-to-earth women I've ever met in my life. So her cards are they just speak to me of so much. It's like every time I do have a look at them or do something with them, I see so much more in them that I've never seen before. And in fact, I see cards that I've never seen before, and I have literally looked through them time and time again, but still I'm surprised every time every time I go to look at them. So today I thought, because it's a special day today with this energy, I thought I would use this particular deck of cards and do my own interpretation of them. There is a book that goes with it, but I'm not going to look at the book. I'm not going to take the book into consideration as such, and I've never really gone into the book that deeply. So the first card that we have come out today, and these cards are called the Inner Vision cards, and like I said, they are absolutely stunning. The amount of detail that you will find in these cards is just incredible. So we start off with this card here, which for me looks like a pregnant tree, which could also relate to the Empress energy. But for me today, this is about birth. This is at the very centre of this reading. And this is about our collective energy here of birth. And this fire sprite above here is talking to me about our creativity here, about the creative process that is happening on this planet at this time. The creative process as we move out of this age that we have been in for 2,000 odd years and moving into a new era, a new aeon. So we are literally moving out of this age of Pisces, which is kind of interesting because this is very beach related, water related, and we are moving into the age of Aquarius. So I see this energy here as the collective at this time, kind of still. If you see here, there's this butterfly And there's this caterpillar down here, and it looks to me almost like the caterpillar's like looking up at this butterfly and thinking, is this what I've got to go through? What's this all about? It's like a transformation that is taking place, and the caterpillar is fully aware of it. And he's got this kind of look of worry on his face in many ways, this little caterpillar, as he's looking up at this transformation. It's like this butterfly that's almost become something else. And something else I feel as well is also this fire sprite here, this creativity. It's kind of saying to me that this is about giving birth to something new. This is a birthing process that's happening here. We have the sun in the background as well. So it's kind of saying that a new day is dawning, but this is a kind of like a massive change that is taking place here. And so I feel as well on some level it's like some people have already gone through this process, some people have already awoken, and some people are kind of in that process of kind of going into that awakening stage, and this little caterpillar's kind of wondering how does that happen? Is it painful? Is it something that I'm going to... And also, like, I've often wondered, you know, does the butterfly even remember actually ever being a caterpillar? That stage of its life, and that transformation that takes place and that happens on some kind of very inner level here. And this is what we are experiencing at this time, or experiencing, should I say, at this time. And it's covered today by an interesting card of this waterfall. But what's really drawn my eye is these little characters down here, this whirlpool of energy down here, which kind of relates to, for me, it's relating to emotional fear. And these little characters here are kind of circling. It's like a sinkhole. It's like a whirlpool. It's like they're being dragged in, and they're kind of circling around and around and around it, because they're not quite sure how to get out of it. It's like this waterfall here, they've followed this and it's kind of taken them down over this waterfall, almost like they've kind of lost control somehow. As of yet, they haven't been kind of dragged down or dragged in. And it's like these steps here, all these steps kind of represent for me kind of having to kind of climb. If they're going to get out of here, they're going to have to climb up these steps. And it's kind of how I'm seeing this whole, like, this process of what we're experiencing at this time, is we need to climb back out or climb back up, like an ascendant, like ascending. And there's this one solitary tree here, and trees for me kind of represent not only nature but also knowledge and wisdom. And it's kind of precariously balancing on this cliff edge as well. Almost like, you know, it could topple over into that water at any time. And also kind of get dragged into this whirlpool. Like I say, in the whirlpool today for me is kind of representing the fears that kind of drag us down and drag us into it. And the waterfall, of course, is the emotions. The whole water is our emotions. There's a lot of emotion here, is what it's saying to me. There's a lot of like this kind of tsunami of emotion or overwhelming emotions, caught up in our emotions. But it's like in order to get out of this place, this kind of descent, if you like, having kind of descended to the lowest energy here, which is how I'm seeing it, this low fear-based energy, we have to start this climb back up again in order to ascend. And that's the challenge for us at this time, is to stop kind of circling this whirlpool energy, this fear. Stop allowing ourselves to be dragged down into the depths of it. Because they are trying to swim away from it. Those little creatures, to me, those figures down there, they are trying to swim as best they can to kind of keep themselves from being dragged in. And I feel that that's kind of where we are on a collective scale at this time as well, feeling as though we're being dragged down into this kind of fear energy. And fear energy, of course, is all about being able to control somebody, because when you're coming from a place of fear, it's a lot easier to have control over somebody, because somebody's much more likely to accept help, even if that help isn't actually what they need at the time. And so what's in our head and what we are aware of in this situation is this wonderful card here, which is kind of made up, all these steps, which is very similar to me, these steps here. This accumulated kind of knowledge. These are all books. And even this here is represented by a book. And of course, books are also wisdom and knowledge, which this tree kind of represents for me as well. That's kind of teetering on the edge here and could very easily be kind of dragged down as well, the wisdom and the knowledge. And it kind of says to me it's accumulated knowledge as well. It's knowledge like ancient wisdom. There's scrolls down there as well. So it's kind of saying that this is our history in many ways. This is all our accumulated history and all our knowledge and understanding that we have. But what use really is knowledge and understanding if we don't have the wisdom to do something with it? And in this part here, and this very small bit here, I don't know how well you can see that, there is this bird that is flying, which kind of for me represents the human spirit. You can see it there. It's flying eagle, I would presume, and it's representing, like I said, the human spirit. And again, it's kind of the river of the emotions, but also the journey of life as well. And of course, there's a lot of fantasy involved as well, because not all books are about facts, you know. There's a lot of fantasy involved here as well. There's a lot of creativity too, which could also have something to do with this, our creative spirit, our as human beings, how we use this creative spirit to create our stories, really, is what I'm feeling. It's kind of these stories. These are all different stories It could also represent the Akashic records as well, which is said to be like a hall of all the knowledge, all the stories, all the human lives that have ever been lived, kind of stored in this one library. And each of these books as well, kind of interestingly, again, kind of I was saying, represents steps. Like you can walk up these books. There's a pathway of books. They're all kind of steps. So in some ways they can also represent stepping stones of knowledge and wisdom, again to higher heights, to heights other than where we've been so far. And there is this little creature who's standing here as well. It kind of looks to me like he's battling with something there. Like a wizard that's being attacked by something. And I kind of feel that that's like the fantasy side of it as well. It's like there's so much richness stored within our history. So much richness. So much that we can learn about ourselves and other people. Our wisdom, knowledge, understanding of life, where it's leading us. Like it's a never-ending story is kind of what I'm picking up here. This never-ending story. And the energies that we are working with, or have been working with here, interestingly, and this is kind of, I feel as though this is a reading not just for a, it's kind of like this is accumulated history in a way that this reading is talking about here. Because this dragon, for me today, is representing the energy of power. It's representing the energy of, like if you see all of these here, all these beautiful gems that this dragon is kind of guarding, but at the same time he's kind of sleeping because he doesn't really need to guard it. He's got this eye down here, which for me is representative of other people doing his work for him. Like those that are kind of on his side in a way of this dragon, this kind of power, this all-seeing, all-knowing, all-powerful energy, which has kind of accumulated all the wealth. That's kind of how I'm seeing this today. It's like an accumulation of all the wealth. It's like I own this. But this is not just one person. This is a kind of symbolic energy, if you like, of how the world has become owned by certain, what's the word I'm looking for here? Certain fractions on our planet, and how they have kind of accumulated all this, leaving very little for everybody else. And it's like if you want more, you have to battle this dragon, this power, this kind of sleeping dormant energy, because this down here is guarding all of this for him, as I was saying. So this to me is kind of representative of establishments, governments, people who seem to be in positions of power in our life, but actually there's a much bigger energy, a much bigger, vaster energy behind this down here. This is quite small, and this is kind of what we see, if you like. This is what's apparent, this is what we can see, because it's up front, it's there, it's in front of us. So this is the this is where our attention goes. Our focus and our attention goes here, when really it's all happening from here. And this kind of energetic beast behind it all, if you like, which has kind of taken on a life force of its own. And it's come out with this card here of this fire sprite, and it's kind of reminding me of this one here. But it's also kind of reminding me here as well that, you know, there is always somebody coming up behind, in the sense of, like, you know, if one person goes down, there's always going to be somebody else who's going to kind of take their place or kind of awaken, because I see this as an awakening. Even though this is, for me, this is a mass consciousness kind of awakening, shall we say. But it's like this fire sprite here is being defeated. It's like he's battled this energy here. He's gone to battle and he's been defeated, and one of his wings here has broken off. And this volcano in the background here as well, also for me, represents this same energy. It's like this vast amount of power that has kind of accumulated over the centuries, shall we say. A long, long time working kind of behind the scenes. We also have in the background here as well some standing stones, so that's kind of saying to me there's an ancient power, an ancient, and there's a divide here as well, which is interesting. There's a division. If you see this kind of division happening here between, I see this is more the kind of collective energy of these stones, the wisdom, and this is kind of more the dragon kind of energy, if you like, the eruptive yeah, this is much more forceful. The volcano is much more forceful, much more kind of might is right energy, whereas this one is more subtle. This is more subtle. It's more to do with kind of wisdom and that inner knowing and that knowledge and that creativity, that accumulated wisdom of the human race. And also the sharing of knowledge here as well, the sharing of it. And in sharing it, it helps us to not only understand things better, but it also helps us to pass on that wisdom and that knowledge. And when we do, it sets us free. That's kind of what I'm feeling here as well, is there's this, like, you know, this freedom, this, like, truth will set you free. There's a wisdom, an understanding in this, that the truth lies within us in many ways, because that's kind of how I'm seeing this, a symbolic kind of inner knowing. So yeah, this little fire sprite here, it's like he's been defeated. He's feeling defeated. One of his wings has broken off. And I feel that that's kind of how we are feeling at this time as well. Like, you know, there's a kind of a defeatist kind of energy here with everything that's happening in the world today. Battling with this energy. And this energy, of course, has kind of all these minions, shall we say, to do its work for it. And so there's this kind of feeling of like, you know, what's the point? This is so big. How can I ever think about being able to overcome this energy here? So I'm just looking at this card. There's always so much in these cards. There's also a similar energy down here as well with this little waterfall. It's just this tiny waterfall, but it's kind of turned into this huge raging waterfall down here as well. Our challenge. There's this little tiny waterfall that's coming out of this kind of dividing crack here, which is the emotions, because water always speaks of being the emotional realm. Can also speak of being the psychic realm as well, being in tune. Water of life. And interestingly, there's pyramids down here as well, which I didn't realise, which is quite interesting thing, as I was saying about the pyramids lining up with this 8-8 gate as well. So, as we move down into our subconscious realm, and what we're not so aware of is this wonderful energy here of, again, this kind of birthing process. But I see this more as evolution, whereas this is kind of birthing. This is on a much deeper level, much kind of grander scale of things, if you like. It's like we've been here for centuries and billions of years, and we've gone through all these different processes, because if you look, there's all these different like amoebas and jellyfish and single-celled creatures, and there's also these dice here as well, so it's kind of like the roll of the dice in some ways as to how things evolve. And there is this person here kind of in this womb type energy. And there's stairs as well, again leading. The stairs are kind of leading into another place. It's a bit like the birthing canal is how I'm seeing this. It's a bit like, or it could be leading back to this energy here as well. It's like all this accumulated knowledge and wisdom of all the lifetimes, all the different lifetimes and all the different life forms that have been on this planet at one time or another. Many of them still are, and we are still being born from the waters as well, which I find very fascinating for me personally, that we came out of the water originally, and then as a human being giving birth, we develop within our own water, within the body of another. And that's kind of what it's saying to me here. But this is, I feel that this energy on this kind of deeper subconscious level, it's like there's an awakening, there's a growing awareness that this is what is going on. It's an evolution here. We are evolving, we are changing, we are becoming something else. Due to the fact that we are becoming more aware, I feel, of our history, of our past, questioning, seeking answers here. Because also books are also about knowledge, seeking answers, looking for the truth. And so it's also saying to me, you know, is it just about a roll of the dice, where we end up, where we kind of which family we're born into, or which animal, creature. Is it all just about the roll of the dice, or do we have some choice? Is there choice here? Do we get to choose how we come back, how we evolve, how we turn up on this planet? Or is it just chance? So the energies that are moving away here, or sorry, energies that are coming in here, is this card here, which today for me has this kind of yin and yang energy about it as well. But there's this little tadpole that hasn't quite evolved into a frog. Well, he's kind of turned into a frog. He's just coming out of this pond, and it's interesting because I was talking about this here. Kind of what I'm seeing here is this kind of evolvement of kind of, you know, even a baby in the womb goes through all these kind of initial, all the kind of, sorry, not the initial, but all the stages of evolution is in the human form. We go through all those different stages. And so this tiny, tiny little frog creature here has just turned from a tadpole into this frog. He's just evolved. But there's this snake creature down here. And so he's frozen here. He's frozen in fear now because he doesn't know whether he can climb out of there. And for me, it's representation of this energy here, down here, this snake, which can easily curl back round and just eat him. And so there's this element of fear, there's this element of being stuck, there's this element of staying controlled in many ways by something that we feel we have no control over. And on some level, I feel that kind of represents how we view our lives as well, like we have no control over them, because this energy has kind of taken over. This energy has, you can see that snake there. This energy here has kind of presumed that it's superior. It's presumed that it's, and it's interesting because it's reptilian as well. These are both reptilian, so that's kind of interesting for me, because there's also a thing within our brain called the amygdala, and the amygdala in some people has not evolved, and that's why we have these kind of energies of real selfish behavior and psychopathic behavior, is because these people, they have no empathy. There's no empathy there at all for anything other than themselves and their own and the agenda, whatever it is that they are hoping to achieve, because it's all about power. It's all about accumulation. To them, it's all about how much I can have. Shows how important I am, shows how what's the word I'm thinking of here, important, powerful, because it is all about power. And so we find ourselves at this time kind of also hypnotized as well, because snakes do have the ability to hypnotize. Kind of like here with this swirling energy here, they can hypnotize their prey before they actually attack them. And that can also be seen as kind of like promises being made that aren't necessarily real. And that leads me also into this card here as well. because this card, there's so much in this card. There's so much in all these cards, but this card I find incredibly interesting. We have the Mad Hatter down here, who is very drunk, and he kind of represents for me that kind of aristocratic, I suppose, aristocratic kind of lifestyle. Yeah, that's how I'm seeing him today. I'm seeing him very much as this kind of, you know, top-hatted aristocratic who gives over the impression of being very kind of, for want of a better word, conservative, or very honest, or kind of truthful or trustworthy, when in fact that he's far from it, this Mad Hatter. He's like, if you see, he's got this bottle in his hand down here, and if you look at his face, he's incredibly inebriated, and it's kind of, he's kind of yelling as well at this kind of fairy figure over here. And I kind of see this as the glamour world, the kind of what I was talking about here with the lies, the hypnotism, the promises of things that are not what they seem. And that this fairy figure here has kind of fallen for his deception. And this for me represents our kind of glamour world, the fashion world, the world that we kind of have been brought up to believe is real, or even brought up to see as being something that we, in order to become what's the word I'm looking for, in order to become important, again I think is probably the best way to explain it. In order to become important enough, we have to kind of, you know, become famous and live in the limelight in many ways. It's like here she looks to me as though she's completely kind of just off her face. And in order for that to take place, in order to become like this, you have to give away your own kind of power here as well, which I feel is what's happening here. And he's kind of turning these characters like into these butterflies, which are very fragile animals as well, or creatures. Butterflies are very, very fragile, and their lifespan is very, very short as well. And it's kind of this energy here I'm feeling as well, that is, in some ways is being manipulated. I feel manipulated energy. But it's also a choice here, and you have these lips down here as well. So it's also about things that are being spoken of, lies that are told us. So this for me represents a very kind of false image of our world. The image that we're shown, that we, as young children, we're kind of told is the, you know, the world that we should aim for in order to be successful and to be on the world stage and be more than what we are. And I see this here, I see this Mad Hatter here as being in control of this. It's like he's turned this person here into this butterfly. And it's not about good transformation. This for me isn't about transformation that is positive. This for me is about transformation of something that is beautiful. and yet it's also lacking in substance. But interestingly, if you follow these steps up here, you will come to this place here, which is all to do with nature. And there's this statue here, and there's also, I don't know if you can see that because of the glare, it's actually showing the phone again in it, which is a shame. If I turn it that way, maybe it's better. There is this kind of figure of like a nature, like the green man or a nature spirit here. There's also an owl here as well, and kind of the owl's watching with the kind of wisdom that an owl has. Owls can see in the dark. They're incredibly silent as well, owls. And they're one of the only animals who will close their eyes when they catch something or kill something. And their eyes, they can see for miles, even in the dark. They've got such incredible alertness and awareness, which is what I think this is kind of saying here. And this is all the false world down here that we have created for ourselves, that we see on our TVs and we see on the movies when we go to the movies, and it's all about this kind of controlling energy. And this lip sofa here, which is actually a toadstool, but it looks like it's a pair of lips here. It kind of, for me, is representing this this deception, these lies that come out of the mouths of these people. And another really interesting thing about this card is if you follow these lips and you look, this whole thing is actually a head. It's actually a face here. And so as you climb these steps again, you kind of come up to back to nature. Or you can go down the other way and say that this is the descent. This is how we have fallen. So we have come from this and we've gone down, descended down. And this is the kind of fall of mankind, if you like. Again, I kind of see it as being similar with this energy of these steps. These steps, but this time it's going down the way rather than here. I feel it's kind of ascending upwards. And accumulated wisdom. So for me, it's kind of saying, like, if you look at these two cards together, it's like the snake is this energy down here. The snake represents this kind of mad hatter, hypnotizing through the use of mind-altering states in some ways, like, you know, alcohol and drugs and control. There's a really big sense of control here in many ways, and this snake, this little frog here, which has just kind of been evolved from this tadpole, is not sure what to do. He's kind of sitting on the edge and he doesn't know what to do. And I feel as though that's kind of our collective energy at this time. He's sitting on the edge and not knowing what to do. Where are we at as a collective, the human race itself? Where are we heading? What are we coming? What are we becoming? And can we kind of climb back up again? Can we, like I was saying here, you know, we need to ascend with this fear element down here, and this for me is this energy here being dragged and sucked into it. And can we ascend back up Can we climb our way out of this with these steps here? Returning back to nature. So, our hopes and our fears at this time. This is an interesting card. I see this as connectivity. I see this as everything being connected together and realizing that this is how things actually are. That it's not just a hope. There's also a fear element as well in this. There's also, I feel, something that again, it's to do with this dividing energy, this kind of divide and conquer energy down here. That this card is about, like I was saying, connectivity and realizing that, you know, everything is connected. There is no separation. There is no disconnection from anything. Whether that's each of us in our own home, or the bigger world, and the kind of going, you know, taking it from our world out into the wider universe, the galaxies. It's like it's all this interconnection is what I'm feeling here. And that everything has its place and everything kind of is doing what it's meant to do in order for everything else to function. And I also get the impression of kind of empires and civilizations that have grown up and have disappeared, and still there's all this connectivity. One thing grows into another is kind of what I'm feeling here as well. Again, it's that leveling up energy. It's kind of rising into something else. Kind of one thing down here. Kind of like down here, there's like these mud huts, I feel. Kind of this stage of being in mud huts, and then we kind of climbed out of that and created something a bit more, and then kind of created more, but it's all connected. And it also, for me, represents the world in the sense of all these kind of nations and countries all being interconnected. That's kind of what I'm feeling, but it's a hope and a fear as well. And the fear, I feel, is the element of us all being different. But because we're different, we can't connect with this person or this country or this, because they have different views and different religions and different ideas, and they do things differently, they eat things differently. That kind of energy as well. Like, how can we connect it together when there's so much that's different? So there is also a fear, I feel, there as well. And yet, if we all become so disconnected, how will we learn and grow and evolve? If we become too insular and close ourselves off to everything else, nothing will change, nothing will grow, nothing will evolve. We will stay the same. We won't learn anymore. We won't learn about all these different cultures and different lives that have been lived. And so there's also an element of that there, I feel, as well. And also, of course, that by now, you know, we've all kind of mixed our DNA, so kind of mixed together now. And we've all come from different areas of this planet anyway, that we are just this kind of mixed bag. on the whole, apart from, of course, this particular type of energy, which has kind of kept its own self to itself, shall we say, when it comes to mixing blood. Keep it in the family. And then lastly, we have this card here, which is interesting because I'm seeing this as being trapped down here. And kind of all these individual pods here, or this pod here is like an individual birthing. I feel as though it's kind of saying to me that this is a rising up out of danger, away from this trapped energy that has kind of kept us in this place, into a much more, again, I'm kind of feeling this is higher dimension energy. A transformation here, this higher dimension energy as we come out of this and move into this. It's almost like less heavy, less physical, less like a state of being less solid in a way, of kind of seeing, not just seeing, but also understanding that that all of this down here, which I'm seeing as our history on some level, the kind of trapped energy, the things that kind of keep us trapped, because this is kind of like a barbed wire thorn, very thorny, almost like a barbed wire fence. It is actually kind of like rows of thorns, but it's also coming across as this barbed wire that has kind of kept us all very kind of trapped in our own pods. That's kind of what I'm feeling here. And this umbilical cord here that's kind of attached to something like this energy here as well. Possibly even this energy in a sense. But there is this kind of there is this growth that is taking place. There is this kind of evolution of the spirit, I feel, more than the actual of the mind. It's kind of like a evolving, because this is all underwater as well. It's another thing about it. It's all very subconscious energy. It's all very, just like this is down deep in our subconscious in this card here. This is the same, and I feel as though this is us birthing here again. This birthing process that is taking place. And this is us kind of escaping all our history that has kept us entangled in fear. Like this little frog down here doesn't want to leap out of the pond for fear of being eaten, for fear of not knowing what's coming. But this is kind of saying to me, like, there's all this electricity in the background as well. It's like a storm happening in this particular card. And I feel as though there's something like very Aquarian, very Uranus about this energy, this kind of shock, this kind of awakening, this kind of change that is taking place, where he's kind of rising again up to the light here, out of the water, coming out of the water, like, again, the idea of birth, but not actual physical birth as such. This isn't so much about physical birth as it is more about our consciousness. This is a awakening of the consciousness. This is consciousness being born, reborn from our fears, from our, like I was saying, our entrapment down here, and all the things that have kept us entangled and believing even in a certain way. And a kind of sudden realization that the physical isn't all there is, that there is so much more. And the card on the bottom of the deck here, which I'm going to read, is this beautiful card here. And there's this tiny little creature sitting, for me, it's like on a cobweb on a swing. Like, and I see it as this being here, which is kind of like saying, I've escaped. And the sun is rising, and it's kind of dispelling all that darkness. And again, this kind of mushrooms, it's like it's risen above these like little mushroom houses down here, which is similar for me to this here. It's like this is civilization, if you like. This is our past, our history. And this little creature has kind of risen above it in order to see this new beginning, in order to see the sun rise over the top. And for this kind of, like this beautiful kind of awakening, in the sense of all these flowers, the poppies are kind of turning this blazing fire, by being illuminated and lit up by this sun that's coming up over the horizon and dispelling all this fear and all this darkness. And this little creature is kind of sitting there and waiting for it to happen. And I see this little creature as being representative of this energy here, as he's kind of escaped this domain here, this fear, and he's kind of found his freedom, because swings to me always represent freedom. As a child, they were one of my favourite things. Whenever I was feeling down, I would go on a swing and just lose myself in the energy of swinging. And the momentum. But that's kind of what I'm seeing from this particular card. And this cobweb here as well, for me, is interesting, because it kind of is representing something that's old, something that's broken, something that is kind of past its best. So that's the main part of the reading today. I'm going to pull an angel script card to see which angel wants to give us their wisdom today. I will read it from the book though, because I don't know enough about the angels themselves. But there is a major shift happening within all of our lives at this time. And although the kind of biggest energy on the planet at this time seems to be fear, and it's being pushed in order for us to stay in that energy I was talking about down here, it is saying that there is going to be a kind of a release, I feel. There's going to be a mass kind of awakening consciousness. Okay, we have Samael. The energy of Samael. And I'm not sure what this is about, so we'll have a quick look and see what Samael is saying. Here we go. Samael, adversity. Okay, so Samael tests our diligence and our dedication. Samael provides boundaries and limitations in order that we may grow in strength and purpose. This archangel strips away the old and the useless, which is interesting because I'm literally just saying that about this cobweb here. That's what I feel that cobweb represents. The old, unneeded, the broken. It encourages new beginnings. by pruning dead wood from the tree. We learn how best to develop our gifts when the teacher insists that we make progress, even at those times when we feel inclined to rest on laurels already gained. Samael does not permit laziness. It insists on hard work and commitment to the goal. Meeting Samael is like meeting a parent who wishes the best for us and delivers stern advice. It looks quite stern, in fact. Looks very stern. Taking a closer look. Yeah, I'd say that's quite stern. We will not be allowed to stumble or falter, since the parent who insists on growth and progress has our best interests at heart. It's also very Capricorn energy as well, I must say, very Saturn energy. Very kind of this energy that we are letting go of at this time is this Capricorn energy, is what we're trying to collectively move ourselves out of, all the history, because Capricorn represents all of that kind of government and establishment and laws and things that are no longer working for us. Hence why we're seeing so much breakdown happening, this kind of anarchy that's taking place at this time. Okay, who insists on growth and progress has our best interests at heart. We may feel tasks have been set which are too difficult. Again, very Saturn, very Capricorn. But we are never asked to undertake the impossible. And we will always be supported in equal proportion to our own effort. Samael is tempered steel, strong and inflexible. It creates girders for the building of our bridges, and these structures will hold fast against decay. Storms and earthquakes cannot shift the products of hearts who have laboured diligently. I think they're talking about inner work here. They're talking about the inner work that we need to have been doing and still are having to do as well. Samael provides firm foundations on which to build a city of light. When we are asked to work, we must join in with delight. The master only becomes a foe when agreements are broken and commitments are unfulfilled. Samael blocks a free passage only when we have chosen the wrong path. Adversity becomes necessity only in the face of our own foolishness. Then we are corrected, and that which seemed difficult is smoothed away. I think that's kind of this energy here as well, our own foolishness, being tricked by those who make these promises to us that turn out to be not for our best. So, Samael is the angel who is working with us at this time of this Lion's Gate, which kind of makes a lot of sense to me as well. Adversity, the time that we are in, feels very much like a time of adversity, with both Saturn and Pluto working conjunct together and have been since January, because both Saturn and Pluto always work through adversity. They never work in any other way. So everything that seems to be going against us is actually for our own good in the long run. But it's hard and it's difficult and it's painful and it's not easy energy to work with at all. But there is change coming, and that's really what we need to focus on, is this change that is happening as we go through these difficult times. So I'm going to leave this reading here and say I hope you have enjoyed my 8/8 Lion's Gate reading. I've really enjoyed doing it with my different and unusual cards, shall we say. Again, they're called Inner Visions. I don't think you can buy them online though. So I will be using them again at some point, I think, because I really do like them. And I'd just like to say thank you for anybody who's come over and watched my video. Please, if you have liked it and if you have got anything of any worth from it, if it's resonated with you at all, could you please thumbs it up for me so that it gets out there into the bigger world of YouTube so that more people can see it, and then hopefully come back to my channel and hopefully subscribe. Thank you very much to those of you who have subscribed, and especially to those of you who have recently subscribed to my channel as well. I'm slowly getting back to where I was before I lost my subscribers. I don't know again if that was YouTube or whether it was just people saying that it's not for them, and that is fine. If my videos don't resonate with you, that is fine, because it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. I've said it before and I will keep saying it. My readings are not of the norm. I'm just kind of, yeah, 30 years experience as a tarot reader, though. I would just like to say that again. Also, please, could you tap the bell for those of you who are interested in getting more of my videos as and when I put them out. I do full moon, new moon, all the zodiac signs, and like this 8/8 video, I do those of kind of interesting astrological aspects, and particularly when the energies change, when the bigger planets shift, but there hasn't been much of that lately, although I might possibly do one for Uranus when Uranus goes retrograde as well, because that could be an interesting time. So thank you again, and enjoy the rest of this 8/8 Lionsgate. As I said, it lasts up until the 12th of August. What I find quite interesting as well is the fact I believe the sun is at 16 degrees today, and 8 and 8 of course makes 16, and if I am correct, which I think I am, then that happens every year. If I'm not correct, then I'll stand corrected, but I'm kind of almost almost 100% certain. Anyway, I'm going to go now and again say thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your 8/8 Lionsgate. Take care of yourselves.